Welcome back to Straight Talk with Billy Kay. I'm Billy Keyserling, the man who's fortunate to be the mayor of Beaufort, my hometown. I believe one of the mayor's principal functions is to communicate with people and to share with them some of the exciting, sometimes not exciting, this one's exciting, things that are happening in our community. Today I have with me Gail Westerfield, who is producer, director, and everything that goes along with most of the community theater that happens in Beaufort. Gail has, over the years, done a wonderful job at using many venues and many local people to participate. But Gail, let's start with, what is community theater? Why is it important?
Well, I think it has a bad connotation in some people's minds. I think that community theater comes off as just amateurish. It's people's neighbors and friends and that kind of thing, and you don't have a very high level of expectation for it. But for me, it has a different connotation, which is that you involve the whole community in it, either as participants on the stage or behind the stage, or just coming into the audience and somehow engaging them in a way that's different than them just sitting there watching a movie. So what I like to try to do is to involve as many people as I possibly can, no matter what their level of experience is necessarily on the stage. I actually have been directing for years and prefer, in some ways, to work with people that don't have experience. They just don't have the bad habits that kind of come with that.
So you're a control freak?
Yes. It's really fun to me too. I'm very excited about this show in this way, to see people who haven't been on the stage or haven't been on very much or haven't been on in many years experience what happens at that particular facility at USCB, because the community is really into the things that they see there, and I've watched that, and I know what that feels like because I've been on that stage, to have the feeling from the audience that you get because they're so supportive. And so I don't know necessarily that people in this community feel like community theater is a negative thing. And I hope they don't think that when they come see my shows, because I think they're pretty professional.
Well, I think I've been to a number of them, and I will on March 8th, 9th, or 10th, or March 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Yes.
Depending on how much
how good it
engages
is.
me. It's funny, I did an interview earlier last week with the Wall Street Journal that has been intrigued with the happiest city on the seacoast. And they asked me why it was that Beaufort seemed to be performing. And I said, because it is natural for Beaufort, because a big part of what this community is about is diversity, collaboration, people willing to try new things, people willing to help each other out.
Right.
And basically, when you come up with an idea or a piece, you basically can go out into the community and start hand selecting people who can perform that particular piece.
And so many people come out of the woodwork. And I haven't done a show here in the many years I've been doing shows that people didn't think or ask me like where these people came from. They don't even know that the actors are in their community, that the people necessarily have those talents. I've had people say, "Did you get these people from New York?" I mean, I'm not exaggerating. People don't have any idea that the level of talent is here. It is really extraordinary. So it's super easy for me. I just kind of sit back and let them come to me.
We're going to, in the second segment of this show, talk to some of your stars. So we'll let the audience judge for yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
about Gail's ability to staff her shows,
Yes.
to assign,
Right.
go out and pick out people in the community.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I get a lot is, Billy, why do you focus so much on the arts? If I'm honest, I have to say, because that's the way I grew up.
Yeah.
But I also trying to look at the holistic city, a city that is environmentally, culturally, and fiscally sustainable.
Right.
I don't believe you can separate those, because
Yeah.
I do believe that the arts is a driver. So let's talk a little bit about your audiences and seats available and how they find you.
Yeah, well, you used the word collaborative before, which is a sort of a fundamental thing to me. That's super important. I'm not an ego-driven sort of person, and that's one of the things I like about you and the way you run the city. Because I think that you just can't get anything done unless everybody's contributing something. And that's sort of what sort of comes in through the audience, is that because I have diverse casts from diverse backgrounds, they bring people with them, and We're getting pretty good in general, I think, around here about advertising south of the Broad. And by advertising, I sometimes mean just articles in the paper, but not necessarily paid advertisements. We're doing things like this. We're doing things on WHHI. We really want to spread the word and get people up here to Beaufort. I moved here 13 years ago and was convinced that if we built something here that people would want to see artistically, culturally, that people would come from all over the place, but especially from south of the Broad. Because most of us don't go down there to see things. They're sometimes prohibitively expensive, or people don't want to make the drive at night or whatever. But I think that those people will come up and see us. So and see our town, and our restaurants.
I think not to compare one to another, but to compare one to the other. Beaufort is much more arts driven.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because we're much more community building driven, and not necessarily everything is about how do you get more people here.
Right.
It's about how do you. I've always said that the best way for Beaufort to grow is to be the best hometown for the people who live here. And this kind of cultural enrichment is an investment that we make, because when someone comes to visit, if they pick up a newspaper or one of the arts magazines, or they by hap chance walk by and see the posters, there's more to do
for sure
than you can really do in Beaufort.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the shows. I mean, I went to one of your first shows, and there may have been 10 of us there.
Yeah.
I think the last time I went to your show, you were sold out the last 2 nights.
Yeah.
So, how do you pick a show? And what is this show?
That's a good question. What I started out doing was just things that I've always wanted to do. You may have seen the one at Sea Island Conference Center. I used them a couple of times for some shows. And then I was some early things that I did. And then I was working with another woman in town who was starting kind of a senior theater. I did a couple of things with them. And eventually I landed at Artworks a few years ago, and they had a nice space, and I did some work there. In the meantime, Bonnie Hargrove, who's producing this isn't my company, this is hers producing this, had seen me in a few things. We've been friends for a while, had seen some of the work that I'd done. So she invited me last year to direct and be in Always Patsy Cline. And so that's how I ended up at USCB. And then this year she offered me this show, and then in April we're doing Noises Off. So this show, she was brought to her actually by the woman Andrea Drake, who plays the lead, if you will, in this show. And I didn't cast her because she brought the show to Bonnie, but she's just perfect for it. So that's how I found out about it. And Bonnie gave it to me and said, "You're going to want to be in this, and you're going to want to direct it." And I just fell in love with the script. It's by Nora Ephron and her sister Delia, and it's also based on some interviews that they did with people, with women, about their relationship to their clothing, which sounds kind of strange on the face of it, but it is funny and touching, and we have a musical number. We've made it a pretty big deal from what it was originally. On Broadway, it was just 5 women sitting in front of music stands on stools. It was a reading, basically, a staged reading. And ours has a fashion show and all kinds of different things in it. Kind of a parody of a fashion show, to be fair.
One of the great things I've noticed about your show is that you do bring people together sometimes who didn't even know each other.
Right, a lot of them.
And they bond around their skills and their talents. And from Honky Tonk Angels or the Patsy Cline program, the 3 women who came together are now actually performing around town.
That's right.
They're going to do another show.
I know, yeah.
So
I think they're going to Walterboro and all over the place. Just
by bringing them together and giving them that opportunity to meet each other, to work together professionally. That's the sustainability.
And personally, it's just lovely too. We have girls that last weekend went downtown to Carteret and Bay and gave out free hugs and postcards about the show.
I didn't
and they're
get
doing
a hug.
that again. I know. Well, we're doing it again this Sunday.
This Sunday
hopefully you'll be able to come. Yeah.
If you want a hug and to buy a ticket to Love Lost and What I Wore.
That's right.
Then go to Bay Street and get a hug on Sunday.
That's right. There'll be at least 4 of us, I think.
But you have to buy a ticket if you get a hug.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Well, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a break in a moment, but we're gonna do something that I think is very fun, because we're gonna take 2 of your stars, who I do not believe have ever been in one of your productions.
No. One of them took an acting class of mine and was rocking.
But it'll be exciting because we're going to get their perspective. is someone who, why do they do it? What are the risks in doing it? What is the satisfaction of doing it? What do they take away from it? And how does it impact the community? Because again, there are many ways we give to our community, but if we can give our skills, our talents, our art, our love, our affection for this hometown, it's going to make it a better place
Absolutely.
for those of us who live here. So thank you for what you do with community theater.
Thanks so much.
I would only make one correction, and you say this is Bonnie's production. It is Bonnie's production.
I'm sorry, you're right.
But she has taken on the personage of the Center for the Arts at USCB.
That's right.
So when we use Bonnie Hargrove sometimes interchangeably because she's the walking around, hugging, engaging part of the Center for the Arts at USCB.
Right.
Thank you, Gail. We'll be back after a short break. Thank you. Welcome back to Straight Talk with Billy Kay. In the first segment of today's show, we talked with Gail Westerfield, who is a theater producer who working in concert and director and entrepreneur and promoter of the arts and a delightful woman. Hope you were in for that part of the show. But we talked about community theater leading up specifically to a play that she is directing called Love, Loss, and What I Wore, which is a fun event on March 8th, 9th, and 10th. So I hope to see you there one or all three of those days. I've already threatened that I will be there all three if I'm entertained, and I think there's going to be a little more the next time, because the last night I know in community theater particularly, you let go. You absolutely let go. And this, in a sense, is a play about letting go.
It is.
Tell us a little bit about the play, Edna.
Love, Loss, and What I Wore is something that most women can relate to, because most of those milestones in our lives are connected to the things that we had on or the part of our life that we were in. It's really kind of interesting. And this to me is important, the Love, Loss, and What I Wore, because there are going to be some local organizations that benefit from this production at USCB, Center for the Arts. And it's going to be, CODA is going to receive $1 from every ticket sale towards their fundraising.
Citizens Opposed to Domestic Abuse.
Correct. First, thank you. Talk in those terms.
I know.
And then CAPA, the Child Abuse Prevention Association, will also be there collecting gently used women's clothes for their CAPA closet that will help raise funds for their shelter. And I think that's pretty exciting. That's one of the things that community theater offers, and I congratulate Gail and Bonnie in USCB for having the collaboration. But it's a really neat piece. I think every woman can relate, and I think for men there's a relationship too.
Edna, you just helped me, because I was wondering how I was going to open up to the question of Anne's flower.
Oh, okay.
So that when you talk about women remembering moments in time based on what they were wearing or what they were feeling. Anne, tell us about your flower.
Well, this flower was given to me actually this morning by a friend of mine who is starting to rep them, and they're handmade, and they're made in Atlanta, Georgia, and they're done by the old millinery techniques. So it's really a treasure, and they're just starting. And this is done with feathers and pieces of felt and all.
Anne, have you ever been on stage before? Well, let me back up. Anne is a retired master retailer for major companies across the country, high-end companies. She's a fluffer. If she wants to, she can tell you what that is. But it's not fluffing the sheets. It's basically organizing things in a much more...
Actually, Billy was the one who told me what fluffer was. I did not know what the real name of meaning of fluffer was until he was my first fluff.
Have you ever been on stage in a performance like this?
I've never been on stage.
And how do you feel about it?
It's a little terrifying. I've done a lot of public speaking through my career, and I guess it's been always a secret ambition of mine, and I did take an acting course with Gail when we first moved here, which was really great, and we had this kind of crazy connection because she said to pick something out to do for your last performance, and I said, I don't know what to do. She said she would help. We wind up picking up the same performance, which was great.
I bet you that on the afternoon of March 10th, after being through this 3 times.
Broadway will call?
Well, Gail will call. That might be better than Broadway because you don't have to travel.
Exactly.
But I think you're going to find that it will be one of the most fulfilling experiences you've ever had.
Well,
getting to work with friends, going into something that's a little different. Edna, have you been on stage before?
No, not intentionally.
Edna's former superintendent of schools,
Right.
teacher, principal, educator extraordinary, works for the Coastal Community
Foundation. I'm into
so
major
she's on
philanthropy
stage
and
all the
fundraising.
time.
Yeah.
But she's on stage raising money, giving away money, asking people,
Right.
helping them
Yeah.
spend money. Have you been on the stage where you could let go?
No, and it's really interesting because I have 5 scenes and I'm different characters in each scene, and there are things that you can relate to, things that were foreign to me. So that's, I guess, where the acting part comes in, because Ann and I were talking about it. I could memorize the lines, but I really couldn't act, and so Gail has been really helpful in saying, think about it this way, give her personality. So it's interesting. It was an experience for me, and it was one I decided to do as a result of just saying I needed to do something this year that would stretch me beyond my comfort zone, and I assure you I am beyond my comfort zone.
You're not beyond your comfort zone today, I promise you. Anne's hiding behind her flowers, so I'm not quite sure yet.
Exactly. Well, my thing was feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
So, and I may have to move,
That's
but
neat.
other than that.
I think whether it's going on stage or working in a volunteer organization, we mentioned some who are going to participate. I'd like to think that that's a little bit special about Beaufort, is that people will do the extraordinary to...
When you were talking about collaboration with Gail earlier, one of the things I thought about this morning before we came for the interview was that when you think about community theater and you think about the fabric of a community, and it's like a puzzle, what are the ingredients that go together to really enhance the quality of a community? And I think without a really extraordinary and lively community theater, you're missing a piece of that puzzle for quality of life. I think it's just really, really important.
When you come to see the play and you see the cast of characters, and they literally are a cast of characters,
Yes.
from one end of the spectrum to the end, and we're the older newbies, but it's really incredible to hear these young girls who are so professional and have so much on their plate in their personal lives and come here and have memorized pages of lines and are there every night. It was really quite heartwarming for me.
Do you think you'll stick to the lines? Or do you think you'll get so into the character that you'll become the lines?
As we both take a deep breath.
Gail hopes we're going to stick to our lines. I think she might be the one that's fearful at this point, but occasionally you can step on a line and move on because you can give it in the same context. And some of them were a little bit awkward for me when I first began, but like Anne, it's really interesting. I've met this whole new, I told somebody the other day that I've met this whole new group of women that I probably, particularly these younger women, that I would have not probably known in Beaufort, because I have sort of my set of friends that I see on a regular basis and lots of acquaintances. But you become almost a family atmosphere when you're in this, and you care about one another, and you care about someone being successful out there.
You might meet them at a social engagement.
You never know.
But you might not meet them when all 8 of you or 7 of you have
There
to.
are 14 of us.
14 of you have to be on stage, many for the first time,
Yes.
doing something that's going to be awkward. Every time we do something the first time, it's
Yeah.
always awkward.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine the 2 of you aren't going to be great, aren't going to be entertaining,
hope
aren't
so.
going to be fun, and aren't going to be begging Gail to let you be in one of her next
Well, I was
shows.
surprised actually that I did the audition on a lark just to push myself, and then when Gail called me back, and then when she called me and she said, "I'm casting you," and I thought, oh no, now I might have to show up. So it's been kind of fun.
Well, I think it'll be a good thing. And what's your biggest fear?
Oh, I think that I like to really talk about the fear more than really being that afraid. I think that once I get out there, it will all sort of gel. And I think that that's what I do to get myself out there. As my husband will say, talk it up the light post. And he knows my lines, absolutely every single one of them.
Well, I will tell you, as much as I get up in front of people and talk, there's never one time that I don't get up before the first word comes out.
Right.
I'm not nervous. And it's something built into us when we do something that's a little different, something that is a little awkward for us, that we're going to feel that. But the bottom
Your
line,
mom used to say that to me when we would drive up to Columbia or Charleston for some presentation she was doing. Billy is never afraid, and I am, so afraid. But she got up there and, was terrific.
And Gail keeps having to remind us to breathe. I think that's one of those things. You get out there and all of a sudden you find yourself not breathing. I mean, because anyway, it'll be interesting.
so I can think of you the first night, you're going to be like scuba divers. You're going to be underwater. You got to breathe, but you're so worried about what you're doing, you might forget.
Well, my first scene, I'm in with my old yoga teacher, so I definitely will be breathing.
Well, I think it's very exciting, and on behalf of the community, actually, thank you for taking the risk, for doing something new, for bringing attention to citizens opposed to domestic abuse, to Child Abuse Prevention Association, and to having a good time and adding to the coastal diversity of Beaufort. So everyone remember, Love, Loss, and What I Wore, March 8th, 9th, and 10th at the Center for the Arts at USCB.
Please come.
Please come. Thank you for being with me.
Thanks.
Thank you.